Hey YouTube, YTPC. It's Pipe Miner Chris here doing a follow-up video. I think the last one I posted was a Yabo I got from Berg. And he had sent me the 3 different varieties of Mississippi River. So I'm going to do my follow-up on that and give everybody my thoughts on it. What he had run into and what he sent me was he had some of the original that was the 2012, or some at least of the original recipe. I don't remember which year it came out, but that was the old recipe, the original recipe, and he liked it really well, you know, and had been chasing it and was trying to stock up on it. Had some of it set aside, but he had that. And then he sent me one, and it was a different recipe that apparently when they switched to Sutliff as their blender. And it's a late 2014 or 2015 blend. And it was a different recipe than the 2012 blend was. And he thought that there was something different about it. He didn't like it as well, if I recall right. But then he sent me some of this 2017 variety. And this one, he was looking for a second opinion because he really thought that they had made a change on this 2017 and something was different about the recipe. Couldn't get it nailed down, whatever, but he just was looking for somebody else. And I had never tried any of it at all. So, you know, I was kind of a neutral perspective on it, I guess. And so he was looking for somebody to try it. And we talked quite a bit, so I told him, yeah, I'd try it, and I'd make notes on it, you know, and give him my thoughts. And so I smoked through all 3 of them, made notes on all of them as I went, and wrote down, you know, my overall thoughts on it. And I gotta say, it's all 3 of them are really good blends. I didn't know what to expect. And I had looked at Mississippi River before. I guess I had looked to see what was in the blend, but I had forgotten. You know, there's so many out there that I've looked at and so many different things. So I had spaced off what was in it. And it's an English with Perique, which most people know because they've either had it or it's something that they're wanting, whatever, but I had forgotten that. So I started trying it, and I made notes. You know, I guess if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. There's a little bit on the back of that sheet, too, that I wrote down. You know, and I tried to do all 3 of them the same way. I smoked all 3 of them in my little Devil Ants Cuddy from Missouri Meerschaum. I smoked 1 a day. That way, you know, I always went in with a fresh palate, no contamination from anything else. And made sure the pipe was good and clean. You know, I tried to keep the experiment, I guess, for lack of a better term, as clean as possible. And so I'll just kind of go through what I found. And I'll start with 2012. Now, when this came in, and I don't know if this is how it came when it was new or not, but this one is, I mean, it's completely broken up. It's just essentially, and there are some little pieces of, I think, what used to be cake left in there. But, you know, after 5 years and being handled more than once, it's all just broke up. So, not that would make a difference, but that's how it came. And, you know, when you get to these, I cracked it open, checked the 10 note before I smoked any of it. Well, in this case, bag note, you know. But all I was getting on the 2012 was primarily Latakia, Virginia, and some dark fruit. Now, I can tell you, and I haven't done any research, but the Latakia smell that I'm getting out of this 2012 is, for those that have experienced the difference, is more Syrian than Cyprian. It's just a little smoother, it's a different smell, you know, it's just different aroma. And I think that was one of the differences between them, is that the early one had a Syrian Latakia, and then they had to switch for obvious reasons to the Cyprian. So, from the first light on this 2012, this has got 5 years of age on it. So this stuff is really smooth. I mean, it's just very light Perique on the very early portion of the bowl. You get the sweetness from Virginia, and then as you get to the lower portion of that first third, the Perique starts to kick in a little bit. Then you start, about halfway through the bowl, I started picking up just a hint of vanilla every once in a while in there. The Perique stepped up a little more. I could pick it out a little better. But more and more, the smoothness on this 5-year-old Mississippi River was just what kept getting me. It just smooth as silk. I was really impressed. By the time I got to the last third of the bowl, the Perique had stepped up a little farther, and along with the smokiness from the Latakia and all that, I was starting to get some very slight hints of maybe chocolate in the room note, which is hard for you as the smoker to pick up. But every once in a while, I'd get a smell of something that, to me, struck me like milk chocolate, like a mild chocolate smell. So my final thoughts on that 2012 blend: if you've got some, get it. If you get a chance to buy some, get it. It's good. It's smooth. That age on it certainly doesn't hurt it. Not necessarily overly complex or terribly complex. I mean, it's just really good. It's only a few things, and it does them really well. So then we'll move up to that 2014-15 blend. And this one, it's only got a couple years on it, but you can see there's some pretty good sized chunks of the cake left in there, because I think they slice it into like 1/4-inch slices of cake. And that's still, I had to break some of that up a little bit, but it's also not a bad blend at all. But I can tell you, I noticed a big difference between that and the 2012. Now, I don't know if that's just because of the age, or if it is largely because of them changing makers or changing blenders. But that 14-15, I was getting Latakia, but I was getting the more vinegary, more like McClellan type Virginias in it. I was picking up that ketchup-y kind of vinegary smell on the Virginias. Now, when I started smoking it, I find, like the first one, the Perique is pretty mild in the early part. I started picking up, I had the Latakia, of course, but this one, the 10 note on this one definitely was more of the sharper, more Cyprian Latakia smell. I mean, and like I said, those that have smelled the difference will know it. It's hard to explain the Syrian for those that haven't. The Syrian is a little more smooth, a little sweeter. The Cyprian is a little more sharp to me, a little more in-your-face smokiness, I guess. So this one seemed more like Cyprian Latakia. But then you also, you get that Virginia sweetness. But once I started smoking it, I started picking up Orientals. And I'm not a huge Oriental fan, but I didn't mind them at all in this one. But it was definitely there. I could pick up that kind of tanginess from the Orientals in this one. Light Perique and some, nice kind of light Latakia in the first third. At the halfway point, the Perique stepped up, or was stepping up, and then the Orientals were definitely coming across as being more forward in this one than the Virginias. Not bad. And keep in mind, I don't particularly care for real heavy Oriental forward blends, but this one wasn't bad at all. It's just, compared with the 2012, this one seemed to have more Orientals coming through. Again, it's not an overly complex blend. It's Latakia, Virginia, some Orientals, but I wasn't getting really any of the sweetness or vanilla or chocolate that I got out of the 2012. It definitely was more of an Oriental forward English blend than the 12 was. So, given the choice, you know, since they're both aged, and I would imagine that this 14-15 blend probably could still be found fairly easily. I don't know, because it's only a couple years old. That recipe, I mean, it's all right, but I've had Englishes that were better than this. So, if I was specifically going for some Mississippi River between these two, I'd chase the 2012 before I'd buy any of the 14-15 recipe. So that left me with the 2017 blend. And Berg, like I said, Berg said that to him it seemed like they had changed something in it. Now, this one is essentially all that's left in there is 2 big pieces of the cake. I don't know. I mean, like I said, they're about a 1/4 inch thick, and it breaks apart real easy. I mean, it's like big slabs of beef jerky, you know. And I had never had any, but for anybody that hasn't had any, that's what you'll get in a can. Is a whole stack of these, you know, slabs. And with this one, I broke off just a little bit, and I tried to smoke the same amount in each bowl. So for that one, now this is, again, Berg thinks it's a new recipe or they've changed something. I don't know what, but for that one, the 10-0 was real sweet. You know, it was very similar to the 2012. Just when I opened it up and smelled it in the bag. Aside from, you get the more kind of in-your-face Latakia than you do with the 2012. Now, on that first third of the bowl, first light, it was coming across sweet, smoky. I was getting hints of chocolate, a real light oriental tanginess to it. Light Perique mostly on the retrohale on that first third. Now, this one, as I got to that midpoint of the bowl, that middle third, the Perique was stepping up. Now I could start to feel it in the smoke, you know, on my tongue and that. Not a bite kind of thing, just that peppery feel that you get from Perique. The sweetness was coming through, was definitely picking up, pretty consistently picking up, you know, chocolate and vanilla in the smoke itself, not just in the room note, but I could taste it, you know. And then just the farther through the bowl I went, the more the Perique kind of stepped up on this, and I like it. Don't let that scare you away. It's not overwhelming by any means. It's just I could feel it stepping in more and more. So by the time I got to the bottom third, I was definitely getting more Perique than the first third, which I find very interesting in these, that all 3 blends were very consistent in that. The farther down the bowl you go, the more Perique you're picking up. It's just all 3 of them were that way. Good blend. It was definitely that kind of real sweet, smoky aroma, you know, for the room note and what you're getting on the retrohale. And, you know, I was picking up the vanilla and the chocolate and the sweetness from the Virginias. So, all in all, and I wrote it down that way, so my final thoughts on it came down to damn good blend. It's a sweet English with Perique. What's not to like? I mean, it just, of the 3 blends, I would be after the 2017. If you're going to order it, I would actually call the shops that you're ordering from and have them check the dates on what you're ordering and see if it's the 2017 blend or the 14-15 or, you know, or older recipe. Because for my money, I would buy that 2017 because it is really good right out of the 10. I can't imagine what it would be like if you get some age on it. You know, if it smooths out like that 2012 did, that's going to be an incredible blend for me. So I will definitely be chasing some of this new blend of Mississippi River because, like I said, anything that's that good without age on it is going to be really good when you put it in the cellar and let it age some. But I've talked to Berg. That kind of coincides with what he was thinking. Just a second opinion on it, I guess. which is what he was after. And I had several other people say that they were interested to see what I thought about it. So that's what I had. That's my thoughts on the Mississippi River, the changes. If you can get some, if you can get any of it, none of it's a bad blend by any means. But if you're looking for something to put in your cellar, get the 2012 or get the 2017 new stuff. So until the next time we talk, remember, life is short. Stop and smell the smoke.